Okay.
Hi, my name is Barbara. Then it was Barbara Green.
Barbara Green.
Yes.
Okay.
And we grew up at 5436 Frankfurt Court.
All right
That
now.
was one of the best times of my life. We had a recreation center and it was nothing there that we couldn't do. They had Easter parades, ballet, tap dancing things for young men, and it was just a great place to grow up in.
That's right.
And for old time's sake, this is my first time actually being back inside the complex, and I'm doing something today for them. And I like to get an application.
That's
I said
right.
because it's bringing back memories. Almost put me in tears, you know.
Right. Well, application accepted because once Parkside, always Parkside, right?
That's right.
And your assignment today was Parkside, so
Hey,
Parkside it is.
that's
We stand
right.
on Parkside business with God's approval.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
And I'm happy to be. I'm elated.
And thank you for being our bus driver today and picking up this God's assignment.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Society talk for us. No.
Oh, I love it over there. That's right.
This $1,250,000 includes remediation or just testing?
So right now, it's just gonna, so we think 250, 260, not really sure because they're using two labs.
Right.
And we're trying to get the information back, so we don't have a quote on that. We just have a quote on the work they can do when they're self-contractors.
Right.
Can do as well, right? We don't have a lab part, so as of today, we don't have a lab part.
Okay.
So,
6 rooms that are currently used by the Friends of Parkside, or work until recently currently used by Friends of Parkside. It was a holdover lease from our acquisition of the LLC that gave us full and complete ownership of Parkside, so we could go forward with our redevelopment efforts there. That month-to-month lease continued from our acquisition all the way through last month. And what I wanted to share with you about that was in late 2024, members of the community of Parkside approached the Housing Commission about holding a resident council election. We have been, with the work of our resident services department, seeking to create resident councils at every public housing development so that we can have a resident voice, especially as we are beginning to consider more aggressive rehabilitations of our properties. Resident council, the folks asked and advocated for resident council and asked for a proper election to be held, which has independent supervision, and they asked for the HUD handbook to be followed in executing that election. So in January, an election was completed, and there were 5 resident council members selected. The 5 resident council members were negotiated with us, like all the other resident councils, an MOU. In that MOU, each resident council was allowed to get a sort of subsidy for their operations. They're allowed to get and allowed to get office space if they request it. The Parkside resident council requested office space. So because that office space at the Parkside Recreational Center was leased to F.O.P, Friends of Parkside, we went to Friends of Parkside and asked them if they would be willing to allow the resident council to use 2 of the 5 or 6 rooms that are at the community center for their use. The Friends of Parkside was reluctant to allow the resident council to use the space. They counter proposed that they should be able to use 1 room and maybe have partial use of another room. So there was some back and forth about that. It became pretty clear that we were not going to be able to get the space back from Friends of Parkside just by asking in an informal way. And so what we did was we terminated the lease, and we shared with Friends of Parkside and Resident Council that we don't have any problem with Friends of Parkside, but we need to make sure that the Resident Council has the space that they need through their work. So unfortunately, recently there's been a lot of public dialogue generated by Friends of Parkside about this. We welcome, people have the right to protest and make their voices heard, including the resident council of Parkside, I should add. We welcome all of those voices. But I did want to just make sure you had that information, and members of the community who might be listening have that information, so that as questions are asked and comments are made about that, which we're anticipating a number, given that there's a group of folks who are here as part of it, raising their voices about this. I just want to make sure you had a good narrative of what.
That is not a good narrative, that's a lie.
Question to the chance to ask me.
What were the terms of the lease? What was the notice of the canceling of the lease? Like what was the whole process?
So it's a $0 lease.
It's $1 a month lease, essentially, and it expired in March, and then it went month to month thereafter. We issued a termination notice May 25th, and it was a 30-day notice period within that, which expired on Sunday, June 22nd.
So those are the details of the lease. Again, we are very open to, we recognize the importance of tenant voice. I also want to say, just in the interest of posterity, that for a long time, there are members of the Friends of Parkside have been involved in activism on that site, and that there was a time when Friends of Parkside was a representative group. Right now, however, at the advocacy of the tenants, the resident council is now the voice of that neighborhood. And while we have no quarrel with Friends of Parkside being part of how they advocate, we did want to make sure that that group had an office space that's consistent with the agreement we signed with them. So, again, there's no question about this. I hope that when the full execution of the termination of the lease is complete, that there'll be some resolution reached where, because we're planning to, and I have already offered that space to the resident council. They are reviewing the lease arrangements to see if they would like to do them. But it's our hope that some positive resolution can come out of it. But at this point, we had to retain the primacy of the group that was the elected representatives.
Guys, we're talking about
We tend to
there are
practice.
4 rooms at Parkside,
Approximately 5. One of which is 75.
all in the central.
All right, call me back later.
Yes, and
All right.
the residents council, given sort of like the status of the regulation, are they actually gonna have a lease from us, or is it just they're the residents council, we're making the space available, so there is no lease?
So currently, it's just a part of their MOU that they should have space.
Right.
We have, so they signed that MOU.
Right.
We have since offered them the full control of all the space, and that they can subdivide it, and if they'd like, they can sublease it to whoever they want.
Okay, so we are gonna grant them, but the sublease, because they're not a legal entity like Friends of Parkside would be as a 501c3, they get whole lease, they're not a
Right.
thing, right? They're not an LLC.
So we were gonna give them control,
But we'll give them-
non-lease control.
So if they want Friends of Parkside to take space, then we would then revert to lease with them, because we are the actual landlord.
We are the landlord, but pursuant to our MOU, it's structured and includes language like a lease would.
Okay.
And it's, within the MOU itself, it says, if requested, we shall provide office space. The amendment that Rosa is referencing that we're going to make to the MOU is designating that specific office space to the resident council.
So we would have some kind of a use agreement with an organization, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, we'd have some kind of use agreement.
Absolutely.
Because the residence council has legal status with us, like as a HUD, sort of regular HUD, as we created, an outside party does not, so we need to have some way to memorialize that relationship, who's responsible for what, so, but it would be through the auspices of the residence council that would come to us and say, we would like the use agreement for this entity, or this space at these times, and we will create some kind of agreement. Am I thinking about that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, okay, I just wanna,
No, it's not a problem.
I don't love us doing third-party leases like that for obvious reasons.
Of course.
Unless it's built into the deal.
Of course.
So I think like a use agreement is important.
Haven't we heard this before?
Is there enough space in this building
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank
Like,
you.
asking, hey, can you make some space for this other group?
Yes.
Is there,
Come on, speak up.
I just wanted to make sure that members of the commissioners understood the background of it in case there are, as you will, over the next, the comment period, you will be hearing from people who have concerns about this. I just want to make sure that those listening, those in the room,
You're lying.
full accounting of
We had a meeting and we told you you were
we
lying.
share
Right.
all the
Quit
information
remixing it.
Every resident of Parkside in writing. So this is all this is all fully in the public.
He just coming up with something.
You're right.
With that, let's
Let's bring him in.
check our,
Please, let you go back there now.
This is the opportunity. For public comment on matters unrelated to agenda action items. Comment is limited to 3 minutes for individuals and 5 minutes for group
Calm down,
representatives.
take a deep breath.
To ensure speakers adhere to the time limits, the timekeeper will give a 1-minute warning for persons with a 3-minute comment period and a 2-minute warning for persons with a 5-minute comment period. This warning will be by means of a tone. When the speaker's time is up, the timekeeper will disconnect the call.
yeah, now this means to treat people about.
all right, good morning, everybody. I have a couple questions. That's all my first question.
I can't hear.
How are you guys prioritizing or positioning yourself, to deal with the immediate impacts of the HUD costs? And I think the HUD cuts, and I think that I've heard a lot of the questions or concerns that you guys are posing. So that's my first question, and it led me into, thinking about the 14 properties. So the 14 properties, my question is, instead of selling them all, have you guys thought about retaining the property itself, and then how you can leverage that? Because I know selling it off, you said it's about $6,000 proceeds, but what is the cost of having people retaining and to put the property in something, depending on the zone that they're in, where you can keep the land, keep everyone receiving money, that could possibly be greater than $600,000 that you're selling. So those are my 2 questions with that. My third question is completely different. At the Background Policy Council, I know that I heard Mr. Jameson talk about the modular home and consideration of that. My question around that is, when it comes to not only those properties, but any property that you renovate, when it comes to the response to climate change and also any type of uncontrollable rate increases, are you guys thinking about putting the upgrades or the construction, having it in alignment with energy efficiency, for instance, like geothermal, installations, those types of things, because that helps with rates, whether it's the summertime.
So I mean, we can make kind of quick responses and because this will be a lot more. So we'll definitely be kind of delving into that on the sale versus keep in that Housing Commission DLBA kind of presentation that we requested, because we want to make sure of exactly that this is the most efficient way to keep this housing, get rehabs and back into the sphere and towards affordability versus and ability to be managed or better off owned, so that as opposed to in the kind of trapped HUD zones where why it's been sitting there for so long in terms of what it costs us versus what.
We are worried about like 5,000 individuals, many are housed, now you're eligible.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Barbara Ward.
You get it.
Go surrogate auntie. Bye, guys.
Your spirit in the place. Right? You heard her? Let us speak it.
Who's Barbara? Barbara? Who's Barbara?
Barbara.
There is no Barbara, I don't think.
Oh, was she? No. That wasn't her that went to go get. That's not our bus driver, is it?
Okay, so I can only, we only got room for
She's
like.
speaking for the group.
Okay, so if they can hear her in there.
Okay.
But you got 2 chairs.